Quan in our Facebook group, which is doorgrowclub.com. If you want to join and you're a property management business owner, you should be in that group. Anyway, Awan asked this question. He said, what's the best ways to screen clients, homeowners, in parentheses? What questions do you ask or things you look for? Anything out of the ordinary that's helped you avoid landmines? So, at one, I'm guessing you've dealt with some landmines like we all have when it comes to clients, right? And so, a lot of times we're like, how do we screen clients? Well, the first thing everybody should do first, the very first thing is you need to make sure you figure out what do you want. It needs to be written down. Your entire team should be aware of who you want to serve. Who is your ideal client? What do they look like? What's different about them? Like, how do they think? Where are they located? Area and geographic location of their properties is probably a big deal. What beliefs do they have? What type of property do they have? The more specific. So we coach our clients on mapping out what's called a client-centric mission statement. And one of the four major sections is defining who you want to serve. So get clear on who you want to serve. And when you do this, the thing that I teach them is to imagine there's an evil genie. We all know the evil genies and genie stories, right? You rub the lamp, you ask for a wish, and they give you, like the movie Bedazzled, for example. And the genie gives you your wish, but it gives you the worst version of that wish, like that possible. And so, in order to hog tie this genie, in order to tie the genie's hand so it cannot give you anything other than something great, you have to add enough adjectives and qualifiers and detail so that there's no way that the universe or an evil genie can give you a bad version of this. Like, you're just like, I want people that have rental properties. Cool. The evil genie gives you the worst ones, right? If you say, I want owners that are willing to invest in their property. Cool. Slight step better. But what if they're willing to invest in their property, but they're absolute assholes to your team? Right? And they're just jerks and they swear at your team and they treat your team terribly, right? So figure out what you do and don't want. Like, make a list, get super clear. What area, where, what type of property, what qualifiers are there? And so you need to figure out what your qualifications are. First, you get clear on what you want, then you need to qualify. So in sales, one of the most important things in sales is at the very outset of sales is qualification. If you're not qualifying your leads and you're not qualifying your potential clients, then you're going to get a lot of riffraff coming into your sales pipeline. Qualifying filters them out and it prevents that. So, for example, one of my clients who had 2,000 doors, what he loved to ask, even on his lead forms, he would ask, are you current on all your house payments? All right. He's like, we just knew we did not want to deal with anyone that was not current on their house payments because they would be a nightmare client to deal with. So make sure you define your ideal client. Play with the evil genie rule, figure out what you don't want. So a lot of you are clear on what you don't want. You're like, oh, I had this terrible client that was like this, or I had a client that was like this. Once you get clear on what you don't want, then it's a lot easier to say, okay, what's the opposite of that? Because whatever you define as your ideal client, I don't want it to be a bunch of negatives. Phrase it in the positive. Like, what is the opposite of that? What would we want? Well, we want clients that aren't jerks. So that means we want clients that treat our team well and believe in us and are like a joy to work with, right? That trust us as advisors, this sort of thing, right? What would the ideal client look like? And then once you've defined an ideal client and you know what this looks like and your team knows what this looks like, it's a very easy yes or no question when you're talking to somebody. You're like, whoa, this person is not a fit. They are not willing to invest in the property. Some clients have asked questions such as, like, if they're in an area where has very cold winters, to say, hey, so question, if the heater goes out in the middle of the winter and it's going to cost like X thousands of dollars to get this replaced or repaired, what would you do in that moment? And if they're like, oh, well, I think I'd try and see if it's the tenant's fault and I don't I don't like, maybe there's a way we could just like avoid getting them something, and anything other than what is the right response, then you may not want to take on that client, right? So you can have qualification questions to test them. What would you do in this situation as an owner if I come to you and say, hey, this needs to be done? The only right answer you can let them know later is, yes, this needs to be taken care of, and go ahead and do it. And I will have the money set aside for a rainy day for some of these challenges that may come up. I'm not just going to be broke and have no money and not be able to invest and try and make you pay for all of the repairs and maybe take it out of rent later, or whatever your rules are, right? So get really clear. This also is something that over time you should be building into your agreements. Your agreements should get better and better at filtering out bad clients so that they're agreeing to be good clients, because you have rules in your agreement. Like, if these things happen, if we have any maintenance issues that are under $500, we're allowed to just take care of it without your permission, for example. Like, what would make them an amazing client? Think about, how could I get my potential clients to become amazing clients? This is how you avoid landmines. You have great agreements, great qualifications, and then you spell this out in your agreement with them. But you don't just give them an agreement to read. You go over this agreement with them verbally so they can hear it, because it doesn't matter what an agreement says until you're in a legal battle. At that point, it's already war. You need to go over this agreement with them verbally, and that's going to be a great way to establish how they can be a great client. That stuff should be written in there. And so you're going to talk to them. This is how to be a great client. This is how to work with us. These are the clients that we want to work with. This also is a great sales tactic called prizing. And so when you're selling to people, you want to be the prize. It's not that they are the prize. Typical failure sales process is to view your prospect as the prize and go, oh my gosh, you just really should be with me and you should like me and whatever. That's super low value. You want to be the prize. You want to qualify them. Say, well, hold on, owner. We don't work with everybody. And here's why. We can't help everybody. We're willing to bring on your property if it meets certain criteria. So I need to ask you some questions, and we're willing to bring you on as a client if you meet certain criteria, because I know I can solve your problem. We're the prize, right? You are the prize. I want you to be the sexy guy or girl at the bar, right? The attractive person at the bar that does not get with everybody. You don't get with everybody. Nobody wants to be with the person that gets with everybody, right? Be that attractive person that everybody wants to be with because they're so attractive, right? And you do that by selling and by having standards and by having qualifications and by knowing what you want as a business owner and being picky. If you take on anything, you're going to have a lot of landmines. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have some questions you ask, or qualifications, or things that have helped you really screen out the bad property management clients and get the really great ones and keep your portfolio clean and healthy, comment below and chime in and let us know what's working for you when you are screening and helping you get really good clients. Help people out, help that one out. And until next time, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.